Introduction. Step into a world where diners were more than just places to grab a quick meal. They were the heartbeat of American communities, gathering spots where families, travelers, and locals came together over comfort food, conversation, and the familiar hum of a jukebox. Between the chrome counters, checkered floors, and clatter of coffee cups, there existed dishes that defined eras, reflected cultural shifts, and captured the creativity of cooks who sought to delight every patron. These were not just meals, they were experiences. From indulgent sandwiches dusted with sugar to wobbly gelatin salads that mesmerized the eye, from creamy chicken dishes that felt almost regal to quirky creations that dared to be different, diners offered a culinary snapshot of mid-century America. But as decades passed, changing tastes, faster kitchens, and evolving food trends pushed many of these beloved dishes into obscurity. This countdown explores 15 recipes from American diners that disappeared with time, each with a story to tell, a glimpse into the flavors, traditions, and nostalgia of a bygone culinary era. Some may surprise you, some may make your mouth water, and all of them carry the unmistakable mark of a time when diner food could be both simple and extraordinary. Number 1. Ham loaf with brown sugar glaze. Sweet, savory, and baked to glossy perfection, ham loaf with brown sugar glaze was the kind of dish that made diners feel like they had stumbled into a warm, welcoming kitchen rather than a bustling eatery. Imagine walking into a small-town diner in the 1940s, the smell of caramelizing sugar mingling with the earthy aroma of cooked ham, instantly sparking a sense of comfort and curiosity. This wasn't just food. It was a memory in the making, a dish that seemed to promise a moment of indulgence without extravagance. The origins of ham loaf trace back to the early 20th century, emerging as a practical yet inventive way to stretch a modest amount of ham into a full meal. Ground ham was mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings, shaped into a loaf, and then glazed with brown sugar before baking. The result was a tender, flavorful interior, crowned with a sticky, caramelized crust. This was not just sustenance, it was a dish designed to impress, to satisfy, and to linger in the diner goer's memory. During the Great Depression and the post-war years, affordability was essential, yet Americans never shied away from creating foods that felt luxurious. Ham loaf exemplified this balance, economical enough to feed a family, yet indulgent enough to feel celebratory. Its appeal went beyond flavor. The presentation alone could draw eyes and appetites. Diners would see the gleaming brown sugar glaze catching the light under the restaurant's overhead lamps, signaling warmth, richness, and care. It was often served with classic sides, mashed potatoes, buttered green beans, or macaroni and cheese. Each plate a miniature tableau of mid-century American comfort. Families remembered it as a dish that could fill a table and hearts alike, while regular diner patrons associated it with familiarity and nostalgia. The sweet-salty combination was particularly evocative, a hallmark of the era's experimentation in blending flavors that today might seem unusual, but was then delightfully innovative. Yet, like many diner staples, ham loaf eventually disappeared from menus. By the 1970s and 80s, tastes had shifted. Health-conscious trends, the rise of prepackaged and processed foods, and the diner's push for faster, simpler meals made labor-intensive glazed loaves less practical. But those who grew up with it still remember the first slice, the crackling of the caramelized glaze, the tender, flavorful ham yielding with every cut, and the comforting aroma that seemed to wrap around the diner booth like a warm hug. It was a dish that captured a moment in American culinary history when food was both inventive and heartwarming. From the glossy, caramelized charm of ham loaf, diners often transitioned to other creamy, indulgent dishes, like chicken fricassee, which carried the same sense of elegance and come to everyday meals. Ham loaf remains a symbol of an era when diner cuisine could surprise, delight, and make the ordinary extraordinary. 2. Chicken fricassee. Creamy, comforting, and brimming with chicken and delicate vegetables, chicken fricassee was a diner dish that seemed to capture the very essence of home-cooked elegance. Walking into a diner in the 1940s or 50s, one could often catch a glimpse of steaming plates filled with this golden, saucy concoction, served over rice, noodles, or toast, offering both sustenance and a touch of sophistication. For many, it was more than a meal. It was a small celebration of flavor in the midst of everyday life. Chicken fricassee has roots that stretch back to French cuisine, where the term referred to a method of cooking meat slowly in a light sauce. American diners, ever inventive, adapted the recipe to suit their kitchens and their customers, creating a version that was rich, creamy, and slightly simpler to prepare in large quantities. By the post-World War II era, it had become a staple in diners across the country. Tender chicken pieces were simmered in a buttery, creamy sauce, often with mushrooms, carrots, and peas, resulting in a dish that was visually appealing as well as delicious. Its presence on diner menus was a testament to the period's fascination with blending practicality with elegance. The popularity of chicken fricassee lay in its duality. It was luxurious enough to feel like a special treat, yet hearty enough to satisfy a working family or a traveler passing through town. Unlike the quick fix sandwiches or fried fare common in diners, fricassee required patience and attention, creating a sense of care in every plate served. Customers often associated it with Sunday lunches or celebratory meals, even if it was simply a reminder that comfort food could also be refined. The creamy sauce and tender chicken created a texture and flavor that lingered on the palate, embodying both nostalgia and culinary craft. Yet, as decades passed, chicken fricassee began to disappear from diner menus. The 1970s and 80s brought a shift toward faster, less labor-intensive meals, and diners increasingly favored items that could be prepared quickly or purchased frozen. The meticulous simmering, careful sauce preparation, and vegetable coordination required for a good fricassee made it less practical in a modernizing kitchen. Today, it survives mainly in old cookbooks or the memories of those who remember the subtle elegance of its creamy sauce and the comforting aroma that wafted through diner dining rooms. From the creamy indulgence of chicken fricassee, diners would often turn to dishes that were more robust and even more polarizing in flavor, like liver and onions, a dish once valued for its nutrition and economy, yet now almost entirely vanished from menus. Chicken fricassee remains a quiet reminder of a time when diner food could be both comforting and refined, simple yet sophisticated, and endlessly memorable. Hazard 3. Sweet pickle and cheese sandwich. Crunchy, tangy, and just a little unexpected, the sweet pickle and cheese sandwich was a diner creation that perfectly captured mid-century America's love for simple yet surprising flavors. Imagine sitting at a chrome-edged booth in the 1950s, the hum of the jukebox overhead, and a plate arriving with a golden toasted sandwich, its gooey cheese melting into the sweet tang of pickles, a combination that was as nostalgic as it was distinctive. The origins of the sweet pickle and cheese sandwich are somewhat humble. It emerged during a time when American diners were experimenting with convenience ingredients and bold flavor pairings. Sliced cheese, often American or cheddar, was layered with sweet pickles between slices of buttered bread and toasted to a perfect crispy finish. The sweet tart pickles cut through the richness of the cheese, creating a taste that was both playful and comforting. This sandwich reflected a period when diners were willing to test flavor boundaries in ways that home kitchens rarely did, turning ordinary ingredients into something memorable. Its popularity was tied to its accessibility and charm. It was inexpensive, easy to make, and yet satisfying, a perfect snack for teenagers, a quick lunch for workers, or a light dinner for families. The contrast of textures, crisp bread, creamy cheese, and firm pickles, made it stand out on diner menus. Many remember it not just as a sandwich, but as part of the social fabric of the diner experience. A shared joke about the unusual combination, a lunchtime ritual, or a childhood treat that seemed sophisticated simply because it was different from a plain grilled cheese. Despite its appeal, the sweet pickle and cheese sandwich gradually faded from menus. By the 1970s and 80s, diners increasingly focused on mainstream sandwiches like burgers, club sandwiches, and simpler grilled cheese. The quirky tang of pickles combined with sweet undertones became too unconventional for many modern diners, replaced by faster, less distinctive options. Yet those who recall it speak fondly of its unique flavor, the way the cheese stretched with each bite, and the unexpected zip of sweetness and acidity that lingered pleasantly on the palate. From the playful, tangy creativity of the sweet pickle and cheese sandwich, diners often moved toward heartier, more savory indulgences. like scalloped potatoes with ham, a dish that offered warmth, nostalgia, and a sense of home in every forkful. Today, the sweet pickle and cheese sandwich survives mostly in memory, a delicious reminder that some of the most intriguing diner dishes were those that dared to be different. 4. Scalloped potatoes with ham. Golden, creamy, and layered with tender slices of potato and savory ham. Scalloped potatoes with ham was a diner classic that embodied comfort, simplicity, and a touch of indulgence. Picture a bustling 1950s diner, the aroma of baked potatoes mingling with melted cheese and salty ham drifting from the kitchen, promising a meal that could warm both body and spirit. The dish has roots in European cooking, where gratins and casseroles were popular, but American diners quickly made it their own. Thinly sliced potatoes were layered with chunks of ham, smothered in a creamy sauce made from milk, butter, and flour, and topped with a golden crust of cheese or breadcrumbs. It was baked slowly until bubbling and browned, resulting in a dish that was both hearty and visually appealing. Scalloped potatoes with ham became especially popular after World War II, when diners sought dishes that were filling, economical, and satisfying for families returning to peacetime life. Its popularity was built on practicality and nostalgia. It could feed several diners from one baking dish, making it ideal for busy kitchens. It combined familiar ingredients, potatoes, ham, cheese, in a way that felt indulgent without being expensive. Families loved it for its warmth and hominess, while regular patrons appreciated the consistency and comfort it offered. Each forkful offered creamy, savory layers punctuated by the salty sweetness of ham, creating a textural and flavorful harmony that became emblematic of mid-century American diner cooking. Yet, despite its beloved status, scalloped potatoes with ham began to disappear from menus as diner culture evolved. By the 1970s and 80s, faster, less labor-intensive dishes gained prominence. The time and care required to slice, layer, and bake the dish made it less practical in an era of frozen entrees and speed-focused kitchens. Additionally, changing tastes and a shift toward lighter fare reduced its prevalence. Still, those who remember it speak fondly of the creamy sauce clinging to each slice, the tender potatoes melding with chunks of ham, and the golden crust that signaled a perfectly baked casserole. It was more than just food. It was a reminder of cozy family meals, comforting kitchens, and a slower, more deliberate approach to dining. From the warm, layered richness of scalloped potatoes with ham, diners often transitioned to lighter yet equally inventive creations like corned beef hash patties, a breakfast and lunch favorite that combines simplicity with heartiness, offering a different kind of comfort and nostalgia. 5. Corned beef hash patties. Crispy on the outside, tender and flavorful on the inside, corned beef hash patties were a diner favorite that captured the essence of hearty, satisfying comfort food. Imagine sitting in a mid-century diner, sunlight streaming through the windows, the aroma of frying potatoes and savory meat filling the air, promising a meal that was simple, familiar, and deeply comforting. Corned beef hash has roots in resourcefulness. Originally a way to use leftover corned beef from holiday meals, it was combined with diced or shredded potatoes, onions, and seasonings, then formed into patties and fried until golden. In diners across America, especially from the 1930s through the 1960s, these patties became a staple breakfast and lunch option. They were inexpensive, filling, and easy to prepare in batches, perfect for bustling kitchens that needed to serve hungry customers quickly without sacrificing flavor. The appeal of corned beef hash patties lay in their combination of textures and tastes. The crisp exterior gave way to a tender, flavorful interior, punctuated by the salty, meaty taste of corned beef and the subtle sweetness of caramelized onions. Paired often with eggs, toast, or even a side of ketchup, the dish was versatile enough to satisfy any diner goer. Beyond the practical benefits, it carried an emotional resonance. A working class favorite, it evoked images of bustling morning routines, shared meals, and the comforting reliability of a diner that knew your order. Yet, like many classic diner dishes, corned beef hash patties began to fade from menus by the 1970s and 80s. The rise of prepackaged breakfasts, changing tastes, and the push toward faster, more uniform menu items made the labor-intensive process of forming and frying hash patties less practical. Diners were still fond of the flavor, but the preparation required patience, skill, and thyme, commodities increasingly in short supply in modern kitchens. Today, the dish survives mainly in memory, in old cookbooks, and in rare diners that cling to traditional recipes. Those who remember it recall the satisfying crunch, the savory depth of flavor, and the unmistakable comfort it brought to morning and midday meals alike. From the crispy, flavorful world of corned beef hash patties, diners would often turn toward dishes that were visually striking, yet equally nostalgic, like tomato aspic, the shimmering, wobbly salad that combined curiosity with a sense of mid-century elegance and whimsy. Harb 6. Eggplant Parmesan, diner version. Golden, crispy, and smothered in rich tomato sauce and melted cheese, eggplant parmesan in American diners was a hearty, comforting dish that brought a touch of Italian flavor to everyday meals. Imagine a small town diner in the 1950s, a plate arriving at your booth with the scent of fried eggplant, tomato sauce, and bubbling mozzarella wafting through the air, a dish that felt both indulgent and familiar at the same time. The diner version of eggplant parmesan was an adaptation of the classic Italian dish, simplified to meet the needs of busy American kitchens. Thin slices of eggplant were breaded and fried until golden brown, then layered with tomato sauce and cheese, and baked until bubbly and lightly browned. Unlike the restaurant versions found in Italian neighborhoods, diner eggplant parmesan was more generous, more rustic, and often served with sides like spaghetti, mashed potatoes, or a simple salad. Its popularity coincided with the post-World War II rise of Italian-American cuisine, when Italian ingredients and flavors began to permeate mainstream America. Diners, always eager to provide familiar comfort with a hint of novelty, embraced it wholeheartedly. Its appeal came from both flavor and versatility. The dish offered a satisfying combination of textures: crisp eggplant, smooth sauce, and gooey cheese, and a rich, savory taste that could stand alone as a main course or complement other diner favorites. Families appreciated it as a meatless option that still felt substantial, and its visual appeal made it a popular choice on menu boards. It was an affordable indulgence, a way for diners to offer a sense of culinary adventure without straying too far from traditional comfort foods. Despite its widespread popularity, eggplant parmesan gradually disappeared from diner menus by the 1970s and 80s. Changing tastes, a shift toward faster prepared meals, and the rising dominance of frozen and pre-packaged foods made the labor-intensive preparation less practical. Many diners replaced it with simpler pasta dishes or chicken-based entrees that were easier to prepare in high volumes. Yet those who remember it still speak fondly of the crispy, cheesy layers, the rich tomato sauce, and the satisfying combination of flavor and texture, a dish that evoked both comfort and a sense of culinary adventure. From the golden, cheesy warmth of eggplant parmesan, diners often transitioned to simpler yet equally nostalgic dishes like shrimp Newberg, a creamy, sherry-laced seafood dish that represented a brief but indulgent chapter in mid-century American diner cuisine. Number 7. Shrimp Newberg, rich, creamy, and infused with a hint of sherry. Shrimp Newberg was a diner dish that seemed to bring a touch of luxury to everyday American dining. Imagine entering a bustling mid-century diner, the air filled with the comforting aroma of butter and cream, and a plate arriving with tender shrimp bathed in a golden, velvety sauce. A dish that felt both indulgent and approachable, bridging the gap between fine dining and the casual diner experience. Shrimp Newberg has its origins in 19th century America, created by a sea captain turned restaurateur in New York. By the 1920s and 30s, it had found its way into diners, especially along the East Coast, where seafood was both plentiful and popular. The diner version was simplified for practicality. Succulent shrimp were gently cooked in a rich, creamy sauce made with butter, cream, egg yolks, and a splash of sherry, seasoned lightly to enhance but not overwhelm the delicate seafood. Often served over toast, rice, or noodles, the dish brought a sense of refinement to an otherwise casual meal, offering patrons a taste of elegance without the formalities of a white tablecloth restaurant. Its appeal lay in the combination of flavors and textures. The shrimp remained tender and succulent, while the creamy, slightly tangy sauce enveloped each bite, creating a luxurious mouthfeel. Diners appreciated it as a special treat, often choosing it for celebratory lunches or when seeking something a little more sophisticated than standard fare. For the post-war American diner, it symbolized the optimism and curiosity of the era, a willingness to explore flavors and ingredients that had previously been considered exotic or upscale. Yet, like many once popular diner dishes, shrimp Newberg gradually faded from menus. By the 1970s, the labor-intensive preparation and reliance on fresh seafood made it less practical for everyday service. Diners increasingly turned to faster, more predictable options, and the elegance of shrimp Newberg was overshadowed by simpler, more economical entrees. Today, it survives mostly in old cookbooks and the memories of those who recall the rich aroma of butter, cream, and sherry mingling with the sweet taste of tender shrimp. It stands as a reminder of a time when diners were willing to surprise and delight their patrons with dishes that balanced indulgence and accessibility. From the creamy indulgence of shrimp Newberg, diners often turned to the earthy, robust flavors of fried bologna sandwiches, a dish that, while simpler, carried its own sense of nostalgia and comfort, proving that diner cuisine could delight both the refined palate and the everyday appetite. 8. Frog's leg style. Delicate, tender, and lightly fried, frog's legs were a surprising yet cherished diner delicacy that reflected America's mid-century fascination with exotic flavors. Imagine walking into a 1940s or 50s diner in the Midwest or along the Gulf Coast and spotting this unusual entree on the menu. Small, golden pieces of meat, subtly seasoned, promising a culinary adventure that was at once familiar and foreign. Frog's legs have a long history in French and Southern cooking, but American diners adapted the dish for their customers, simplifying preparation while retaining its signature texture and flavor. Typically breaded and fried, sometimes drizzled with butter or served with lemon, the diner version made it approachable for everyday diners who were curious about something beyond the usual beef or chicken. During the mid-20th century, a period marked by experimentation and a growing fascination with international cuisine, frog's legs fit perfectly into diner menus as a novel yet comforting offering. The appeal of frog's legs lay not only in taste, but in the experience of eating something unusual. Their flavor, often compared to a mild chicken with a hint of fishiness, was delicate and tender, enhanced by crispy breading or light seasoning. Diners who ordered them were often seeking something special, a treat, a conversation starter, or simply the thrill of trying something new. They were also relatively quick to cook and could be paired with familiar sides like mashed potatoes, coleslaw, or French fries, which made them a manageable addition to a diner's menu despite their exotic reputation. However, frog's legs gradually disappeared from most American diner menus. By the 1970s, diners increasingly focused on convenience, speed, and standardized offerings. Exotic dishes that required specialized sourcing and preparation were seen as impractical in a fast-paced, cost-conscious environment. Changing tastes, as well as a cultural shift toward more predictable comfort foods, further pushed frog's legs into obscurity. Yet, those who remember them speak fondly of their delicate texture, the subtle flavor that set them apart, and the quiet thrill of ordering something so unusual in a humble diner setting. From the surprising delicacy of frog's legs, diners often turn back to familiar comfort foods that could still excite the palate, such as lobster thermidor rolls, a dish that combined luxury, creativity, and diner practicality in a uniquely American way. Frog's legs remain a nostalgic reminder that diners once dared to offer both comfort and culinary adventure on the same menu. Harb 9. Lobster thermidor roll. Rich, buttery, and surprisingly approachable, the lobster thermidor roll was a diner dish that brought a touch of gourmet elegance to an everyday American setting. Picture a 1950s diner bustling with families and travelers, and a plate arriving at your booth. Tender lobster meat coated in a creamy, sherry-laced sauce, nestled into a warm, soft roll, and topped with a light sprinkling of cheese. It was indulgent, luxurious, and yet entirely accessible, a rare combination that diners of the era adored. Lobster thermidor itself originated in late 19th century France as a baked lobster dish with egg yolk, cream, mustard, and sometimes cheese. American diners, always inventive and eager to make dishes approachable for broader audiences, adapted it into the roll format. By the 1940s and 50s, especially along the East Coast and in resort towns, diners served the lobster mixture on a split roll or toasted bun, making it easier to prepare and eat while maintaining the luxurious flavor of the original dish. It was a culinary bridge between fine dining and casual Americana, offering diners a taste of sophistication without requiring a reservation or a fancy table setting. The appeal of the lobster thermidor roll lay in its balance of flavors and textures. The lobster was tender and subtly sweet, enhanced by the creamy, slightly tangy sauce, while the roll provided a soft, neutral base to carry each bite. Diners appreciated its novelty and indulgence. It was a treat, a dish to celebrate a special occasion, or simply a way to enjoy a luxurious meal in a familiar, unpretentious environment. Its presence on diner menus also reflected America's post-war optimism and desire for new culinary experiences, a time when people were willing to explore flavors that felt exotic yet comforting. Yet, like many diner specialties, lobster thermidor rolls eventually faded from menus. By the 1970s, the cost of lobster, combined with changing diner trends and a preference for faster, simpler menu items, made it less practical for everyday service. It became a dish remembered more in nostalgia than reality, a fleeting indulgence of mid-century culinary ambition. Those who recall it speak of the richness of the sauce, the delicate sweetness of the lobster, and the pleasure of enjoying something decadent without leaving the diner booth. From the luxurious indulgence of the lobster thermidor roll, diners often shifted toward more grounded, homey dishes, like stuffed peppers with beef and rice, hearty plates that told stories of immigrant ingenuity and comfort cooking. The lobster thermidor roll remains a testament to a period when American diners weren't afraid to blend elegance, accessibility, and a touch of showmanship on every plate. 10. Stuffed peppers with beef and rice. Colorful, hearty, and comforting, stuffed peppers with beef and rice was a diner dish that offered both visual appeal and satisfying flavor. Picture a small-town diner in the 1950s. A plate arrives at your booth, 2 bell peppers roasted to perfection, bursting with a savory mixture of ground beef, rice, and seasonings, topped with a light tomato sauce that glistened under the diner's lights. It was a dish that felt both wholesome and indulgent, offering a taste of home in every bite. The origins of stuffed peppers in America are closely tied to immigrant cooking. Eastern European and Mediterranean communities brought the dish to the U.S., adapting it to the ingredients available in American kitchens. By the mid-20th century, diners had adopted their own version, simplifying preparation while keeping the essence intact. Sweet bell peppers filled with seasoned beef and rice, simmered or baked in tomato sauce, and served hot to hungry patrons. Its presence on diner menus reflected the melting pot of American cuisine, a familiar comfort food that had been transformed into a convenient, plate-ready entree. Stuffed peppers with beef and rice was popular for several reasons. It was visually striking, a dish that drew the eye as much as the appetite, and the combination of tender pepper, hearty filling, and tangy tomato sauce created a satisfying harmony of flavors. It was filling and economical, perfect for families, workers, and travelers alike. For many, it evoked memories of home-cooked meals prepared by mothers or grandmothers, giving the diner experience an intimate, comforting quality. The dish also showcased the diner's ability to take ethnic-inspired recipes and make them approachable for a wide audience, a hallmark of mid-century American dining. Yet, like many nostalgic diner offerings, stuffed peppers gradually vanished from menus. By the 1970s and 80s, faster, easier-to-prepare meals began dominating, and dishes that required careful assembly and slow cooking were increasingly impractical. Changing tastes, along with the rise of convenience foods, meant that fewer diners were willing to invest the time to prepare this once-beloved dish. Nevertheless, those who remember it speak fondly of the tender, flavorful filling, the sweetness of roasted peppers, and the warm, comforting tomato sauce, a dish that was both humble and elegant, simple yet memorable. From the vibrant, homey indulgence of stuffed peppers with beef and rice, diners often moved towards sweet, playful creations like apple charlotte, a baked dessert that combined ingenuity, nostalgia, and a touch of old-world charm. Stuffed peppers remain a reminder of an era when diner cuisine could balance flavor, comfort, and cultural heritage on every plate. Conclusion. As we look back at these vanished diner classics, it's clear that food is never just about sustenance. It's about memory, culture, and connection. Each dish we've revisited tells a story of innovation, indulgence, and comfort, reflecting the tastes, values, and creativity of mid-century America. From the golden crunch of the Monte Cristo to the delicate flavors of frog's legs, these recipes were once everyday delights that brought people together, and their absence today reminds us how culinary trends evolve with society. Though many of these dishes have disappeared from menus, their legacy lives on in memories, family recipes, and the occasional revival in modern kitchens. They remind us of a time when diners were more than fast food stops. They were stages for culinary invention, places where even the simplest ingredients could be transformed into something memorable. In remembering these recipes, we celebrate not just the flavors, but the era itself, a period of warmth, creativity, and unapologetic indulgence. These lost diner classics are more than nostalgia. They are a testament to the American love of comfort, ingenuity, and a good meal shared with others.